And welcome to the No Summary Required podcast, a podcast where we talk about nothing. And now your trio of hosts with a trio of topics, starting with Romina.eth, Audrey, Sus as Hell Ember, and of course, your Dark Lord of the interwebs, Roberto Blake. Welcome to the No Summary Required podcast, filmed in front of a live YouTube audience. Please like, subscribe, and of course, review us wherever podcasts can be found.
Nice.
Except Spotify.
No, they have reviews now and ratings.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Now, if only we were up to date with all of our episodes.
You know, if only the audio only episodes were up to par. You know, it's like it's not as if that division of labor hasn't been assigned.
I'm working on it.
What number are you up to, Ember?
I actually don't know what number.
Right.
I need to get in a habit of doing 10 a week or something?
Every day we stray further from God.
You just need me to upgrade the plan so that we have more monthly uploads or something, or just is that the fact? Is that the bottleneck?
Anyway,
is that the bottleneck? Is the bottleneck the fact that you can only upload so much hours of every week, or?
I mean, I think it'll just take time, but we'll be caught up eventually. I just need to do it more regularly. Yeah.
I'm tweeting out our episode right now. What's all that tapping? Is that
me typing?
It
was me typing.
I didn't realize we were doing ASMR. Sorry.
So while Romina is tweeting, promoting, publishing, Audrey, let's start with your topic and the quote-unquote end of Mr. Beast.
I just did that for...
I know for dramatic effect. No, you're talking about... I think the Mr. Beast era is only beginning because he's about to start his official reign as the top YouTuber. But so I think his era is just beginning. Why do you think that era? I know you're not saying he's over, but why do you think Mr. Beast era of content is over? I think it's just starting.
I've had a couple conversations recently with friends and creators, and a lot of people are kind of over the over sensationalized content,
spectacle content. Oh, they realize that it's really hard to do, it's unreasonable, and they're also too broke to do it.
Yeah. And so there's kind of this push to go back to more vlog stuff.
You mean things you can do if you're broke?
Yeah.
Right.
But I was watching the new one of Colin Smear's latest videos about this new content house.
Yeah.
And it is very... Did you see that?
No, not yet.
It's about
creating more than I consume.
House. Oh. Do you know about that?
I did see them promoting it on Twitter.
So I did not know about any of this. I'm familiar with one of the people who are in it, but that's about it. But they do mostly... I mean, it's still catchy thumbnails and titles. It's not daily vlog number 37, but it is more vlog focused and personality focused.
But they live in New York.
Yeah. I mean, it's still an unobtainable lifestyle, but they live in New York focused.
They live in New York, and they're all young and attractive.
I'm not that's true. I mean,
so it's literally
hear me out.
MTV's The Real World New York. It's MTV's The Real World New York for Gen Z. That's it. It's Zoomer's version of MTV's Real World New York.
And what's been popping for a while now on YouTube. I think it's, even though they get traditionally, I guess, lower views, not even though, some of their stuff is doing really
they
well.
probably are doing fine because look, back when Sarah Dietschy was a vlogger, she was getting views as a vlogger. When John Hill moved with her to New York and everything, he was getting views on his vlog. Eric Conover, crushing it. Brett Conti, crushing it. When Craig Adams lived in New York before he decided to go hiking all over the world and jaunt all over the world, he was getting views, crushing it, doing vlog storytelling content in New York. You can make daily videos about your life if you live in New York.
Well, okay, but I was just using them as one specific example.
Sure.
I think it is translating to other areas as well. A lot of it does follow the unobtainable lifestyle
Of course it's going to do that because, like, here's the thing. I understand YouTubers feeling burnt out on the sensational, unattainable, inaccessible, financial moat type content of Mr. Beast, or even, again, most people I know we're big fans of Ryan Trahan, but it's like people cannot make Ryan Trahan content. They just can't. It's not something people can do. And that's the point. The biggest YouTubers made content that can't really be duplicated without massive resources, tremendous talent that takes years to develop, or the blessings of heaven pouring out into you just being born with that level of ability, or massive amounts of technical ability, research, or resources. It's just like, that's the point. That's why would anyone watch somebody that they could just be instead? Why would you watch somebody that you could just replace? You wouldn't. Most people wouldn't. The novelty and era of watching everyday people's lives, that novelty and that voyeurism is largely over because most people are not that damn interesting. We do not really care to watch the daily lives of, like, the people in our own neighborhood. We really don't, because they're not that interesting.
Yeah.
But if you have that, like you said, unattainable lifestyle, the voyeurism for that, there's something for that. Yeah.
But I think the big shift, even if like it still is unobtainable in the same way that sensational content is for most people, there's still like a shift in the culture of viewership, I think. Especially with like the topics that are being talked about in some of these videos. Like another example would be Hey X Natalie, who, like, she just started van life, and like her series is awesome. I highly recommend it.
That's cool. Again, still wildly unattainable.
Like, I know, but still the topics are more like personal, and it's more storytelling around someone's life instead of kind of going.
What are her titles like? What kind of titles does she have?
Hold on, wait. We can talk about the titles in a sec. The last thing I want to say for like the change in culture part is just the relationship between the creators and the audience. Like, I think if we're using Natalie as an example, you know, her videos are based off of her personal experience. Like, okay, here's a title.
That makes sense, and that's still, but again, that's still cool to watch, because again, most people not gonna be able to have the courage or money to go do van life. They're not. So that's cool. And I assume she's doing it as a solo female, right?
I think she had a friend with her. But here, her last video is titled "I Left Everything to Travel in a Van."
Again, that's an aspiration or a bucket list. Like, so, all right, here's the thing. If your content is you living a lifestyle that would represent somebody else's bucket list, or somebody's like, I've arrived in life moment without necessarily being rich, then yeah, that's watchable content. That's content worth watching because it's something that you wish you could do, not something you can do. In the same way, you don't need a lot of money. You don't need a lot of money to be a trick shot person like Dude Perfect. You could just be mad talented and put in a lot of work and effort and have some athletic ability to make Dude Perfect content. But like, that's not reasonable for most people to do. Even the thing you're talking about is closer to like being like, if someone, like the early days of being Yes Theory, someone could be an early version of like Yes Theory today if they're willing to risk it all and they're in college or something like that. And if everything else goes to hell, they can go back home to their parents. That would make sense. And you could end up in a way making sensational content, even if it doesn't pan out. And you could be an early version of like what Mr. Beast is. And it doesn't require the massive resources of the highest level of spectacle content now. And yeah, you can be a personality driven creator with a community that's invested in you and what you're doing. I 100% believe that's true. And that's, it's not realistic for most people, but it might be something that is achievable for creators who are serious enough and are not risk adverse and are willing to just like be poor a little bit, be humble, or maybe sell everything they own. Then yeah, you can do that.
I mean, entertainment forever has been watching people do unobtainable things, right? It's just because otherwise it's boring.
Right.
So,
yeah.
I think in that sense, like, it's always going to be the same. I just think it's cool to see that it does feel more like old YouTube in a way, seeing channels like this pop off, or seeing like the individual relationship.
I mean, I think also Shorts is like old YouTube too.
Yeah, but you can't have the same like personal relation with and through only shorts.
No, I don't really think you can, but you can have that. What the old YouTubers used to have, a lot of them didn't have personal relationships with their audience. They were one-hit viral wonders, is what they were, or they were a
Yeah.
couple, or they were repeat. Some of them were repeat viral wonders without a real relationship with the audience. You
I
know,
think
the
a
audience,
lot were though. Like the ones that we
not the
still hear
majority.
about now.
Well, yeah, the ones you still care about now, kind of, but there's almost none of them anyway. There's
Yeah, but
almost
that's like the
no
whole
relevant
point, right?
OG.
It's like I
There's
think
almost
it's interesting.
nobody from that. Like, I mean, who's still around, guys? Who's still around?
I mean, there's a difference between like who's still at the top of the trends and who do you still watch or who do you
I'm
still
not
have to
saying
worry
like
about.
who's still at the top of the trends, but I'm saying who's still managed to retain a really sizable, consistent, loyal audience that still rocks with them. There are more OG YouTubers that are completely irrelevant than not.
True.
The ones that are still relevant are ones that rebranded. For example, Justine is a
Yep.
good example of that because
Perfect example.
she's always kind of had tech infiltrated in her content. She did used to do a lot of like daily vlogging, a lot more personal live
Variety.
streaming.
She was variety.
She would do like skits.
Yep.
So a lot of like music stuff. So it
Music covers, parodies. Yeah.
was very different from what she does now, which is more like closely related to like tech reviews, unboxing, and like
Yeah.
things like that. With just a little bit of personal touch added every month or so.
Yeah.
But
Exactly.
totally rebranded. So the people who are following her now are not the same people who were following her like 10 years ago.
Exactly. So she's been able to keep refreshing her audience and like keeping up to date. And but it's hard. A lot of people don't do that. Even people who make extremely good, high quality content. Freddie Wong and his crew, even with expanding his crew to a full production company, Rocket Jump, they have not been able to maintain their relevance and the momentum they have. And it's a shame because he changed YouTube forever during his time, Freddie Wong and his friends with Rocket Jump. And it's a goddamn shame. Someone who I feel has reinvented themselves, but it hasn't translated into YouTube success, but translated into some level of mainstream success. Is one of my favorite creators at one point, which was Lily Singh. You know, that she rebranded into mainstream success though, rather than YouTube, because with YouTube, that has not worked out with her being able to retain relevancy and retain her audience or find a new one on YouTube. She found a new one in the mainstream instead. So that's an example of the opposite of that. Someone who's been able to stick around, I think did a really solid job that kept upping the game. Marquez, he's been around forever. And so he's been able to what he did instead of reinventing himself is he kept raising the level and setting the standard. So that's interesting to look at. My friend Amy Landino is from that same old era of OG YouTubers, but she never got the mega success, but she got more success over time because she reinvented herself several times.
Yeah.
And that works. You look at my evolution. My evolution has been people invested in my career journey because I helped and I was invested in their career journey. And so my content has evolved as my career and ambition in life has evolved. And so people keep walking through. It's almost like every year is a new project in a weird way. It's like, well, what creative endeavor is Roberto going to take on now? People watched me go from doing tutorials to more career development for creatives, to then talking to social media and small business, to then talking more to the content creators. They watched me go from being a freelancer to being an entrepreneur and a consultant. They watched me become a coach in real time. They watched me become a public speaker, and now they're watching me become a self-published author. They've come along with me in the growth of my creative career. And I think that does speak to some of what you're talking about, Audrey. Again, maybe if I had done it more with a touch more quote unquote storytelling than, being everybody's favorite professor, that like maybe I'd be a bigger channel. So I get where you're saying, I get where you're coming from, that I think it's so weird because here's the thing. I was talking to someone older this past week about. I'm like, I think it's this weird thing where people are seeking a relationship with a content creator to supplement the relationships they wish they had in their actual life, which in a weird way makes me sad.
I think that's true sometimes.
Yeah.
But other times it can kind of just feel like a friend, you know.
That you don't
Which
have
sounds
in your.
creepy, but yeah.
That's my
That
point.
you
Is
don't
that
have in real life.
It sounds creepy, but it's like you're watching a friend. But is that a bad thing? Because it's the same with like a lot of
watching a friend instead of hanging out with one.
It's not.
Well,
Watching
it
a friend
shouldn't
instead of
replace
having one.
that ideally.
It is,
Right,
though.
but
That's
it
my
does.
thing. It is.
It
It's what's
does,
happening.
yeah.
And it's creepy and it's sad.
I mean, just like I think the reason why this is exciting to me is because I loved watching vloggers growing up. So seeing that like type of
seeing it make a comeback.
Seeing it make a comeback, seeing like videos that have more personal stories intertwined instead of just relying on sensational made up kind of storylines is encouraging. I think it's better for like I'm happy that like the younger generation is leaning towards this because I think it's just better than like
what people watching you live your best life instead of you contriving hooligan pranks like the Pauls or seeing you throw money at YouTube for glory and fame. I understand, like that's at least slightly more healthy and it's more interesting in a way in terms of there might be some substance to it. There might be some actual substance to it. So if that's fair play, and I get it, and that makes sense. And look, I have friends who are vloggers. I mean, I like a lot of my friends are family vloggers, mind you. Like, you know, there's this YouTube channel you guys are probably familiar with, Masley, like, you know, like tremendous creators, wonderful blended family. Like it's good stuff. Or my friend Slice and Rice, you know? So they like, you know, there's people who are watching that, but I think again, I know people like, it's like, there are people that are watching that, wishing that that was their family, which also, again, we did that with sitcoms, Boy Meets World and stuff like that, Wonder Years, but, and I get it. And it's like, you know, Step by Step, Family Matters, so on and so forth. And there's nothing inherently wrong with it. I just feel some kind of way about where parasocial relationships are going with people trying to supplement what they consume instead of creating that in their own life. Because people are substituting it. I'm not saying you are or that people like you are, Audrey. It's like, but there is a lot of people.
It's a lot.
They're living too much of their life. Like they're doing the voyeurism of watching other people's lives on a screen instead of making their own life as interesting as possible. Yeah.
But that happens with all entertainment, basically.
I had that same criticism of reality TV at the time. I'm not saying it's not entertaining or that's not valid or that's not like, and great for good for the people creating it. But I do wish that things were better or healthier for people consuming things.
Yeah.
Because I'm not, and some of that's individual responsibility. I'm just like, I'm worried about what it represents in our culture that someone would rather watch someone else living an interesting life than live an interesting life or even try to.
I feel like that's a whole other conversation.
It might be.
God damn. I'm just excited to see vlogs again. God
yeah,
damn.
no, I mean, make vlogs great again, right?
Yes. Or at least it's like this interesting mix of vlogs and then still clicky stuff. So
I've been thinking of doing it for the More Roberto Blake channel because there's like stuff that I'm like now that I'm traveling again, it's like that might be content for the More Roberto Blake channel. I didn't film like my recent travels just because having finally traveled again, I actually wanted to just be present and enjoy them. But it would have been cool. Be easier if someone just travels with me and films me, but then they can't enjoy anything and I only get to enjoy things. But
then they can go on their other vacations because presumably we're paying them, right? And so like they're able to save up, and then what they do with that money is their responsibility.
They'll probably buy things instead of experiences. But that's a you problem at that point.
You know what, Roberto? I feel like, I mean, it's like if you get to shadow Gary Vee for a day, and you're not making money after a year of shadowing him, then
no, they could make money. It's a matter of how people spend their money.
Right. No, but you can make money, but if you're not saving it, are you really making that money, right? And
that's a whole thing itself, because which leads into your topic, because it leads into your topic, Romina, because again, people have they have no concept of money. Making money doesn't matter. Keeping it does.
And that's the problem with this is it's hard for people to see the red flags. I think in part of it, I mean, there is some kind of emotional attachment to it as well, because when I first started my adult journey, I quickly fell into debt and a lot of problems, which led me to a very unhealthy relationship with finance. And so because of it, I had things like anxiety and thinking about my bank account and
what were you spending the money on?
My career, for the most part.
So that's not a bad thing.
It's not, but I was not doing it right. And
you were not doing it intentionally enough or responsibly enough or guaranteeing a good return on the investment.
Yeah, and I was also not paying attention to how much was coming in versus how much was going out.
I see.
I mean, on top of that, I don't want to be too hard on myself, because I also had to go through the Great Recession. And
Oh God.
That brought a whole
PTSD.
bunch of other things. Yeah. And so I think that having that unhealthy relationship led me to being afraid of opening my accounts and even seeing what's in it. The thought of just seeing what I had and knowing what I had was a problem emotionally. Right. Yeah. And so because of that kind of behavior and that mindset sets an individual up to make mistakes, because they aren't aware of what their finances are and what they're doing. And so because of that, mistakes are made, and that makes it even worse, and you fall into this continuous and dirty cycle of falling into this abyss. And you miss the red flags, right? Because you're looking for escapes, you're looking for easy way out, you're looking for the things that lead you to being a part of pyramid schemes and scams. So what happened is that this happened, I think, 2 days ago or something. I mean, it was this week. TurboTax is set to refund 4.4 million taxpayers because of deceptive free advertising. So what that is
free filing, advertising around free filing. Yeah. So
what this is a $141 million settlement over the claim that TurboTax used deceptive practices in trying to get people to sign up for their programs and their filing services, and would hide or were very sneaky about where they would place the free IRS filing option. And so a lot of people felt like they had to upgrade because of the button and where the buttons were placed and things like that, and felt they had to upgrade their account with TurboTax in order to file their taxes.
And, taxes are something where, you have to do it. You have to do it. So by that point, they're in for a penny, in for a pound. They feel stuck. And it's they had this thought that it was going to be, something they could do for free, and then realizing, oh, well, maybe I made a mistake, or I don't qualify for the free, but I'm already here, so I might as well. And then they go, okay, this is what I have to do. And then, yeah, it's a whole thing.
Audrey, how do you do your taxes?
I was about to say, I think I literally use Intuit.
Which is TurboTax.
Yeah. But I didn't upgrade anything. But I have an Intuit plan, so I have to double check.
I've used them before, but I use
maybe they scam me.
I use a bookkeeping service that does my bookkeeping, and then we get that information to my CPAs. So I use bench accounting, and that's how I do it. And
I have never used TurboTax in my life. I mean, I do have an accountant, and I have always done it through my accountant.
I mean, but it's the government that actually had kind of more or less an arrangement of some kind with TurboTax and into it. And so, I mean, yeah, the government's the FTC is suing them now too, by the way. But it's like the government's kind of acting as if it didn't have some, something to do with this, or some relationship here, and that they wouldn't have had that ability to do any of this without that support and without that relationship. I mean, Christ. And
why is it so complicated?
Because the thing is, because it's just like banking is complicated instead of simplified, which is why a lot of people are abandoning traditional banking and looking at things like Web3 and crypto, even though some people think that that's more complicated. It's not always. It's that people are looking at these peer-to-peer institutions. People are also, even if they're not going to crypto, they're going to credit unions now, stuff like that, because they're tired of dealing with the big banks. The big banks, if you're an adult human and you end up having an average 25-year lifespan relationship with a major bank, which one tends to do, and if during that time you end up paying all the maintenance fees, let's not even forget your overdraft fees or any other fees, just maintenance fees from not keeping a high balance. I checked, and basically if the average bank, if they just buy their own stock, they do stock buybacks with your money on just your maintenance fees over that 25-year relationship, they'd make $1.5 million off of you for the $8 a month on average that you'd pay for those maintenance fees. That's not including all your overdraft fees that you might have or your bank balance. And that's assuming they just bought their own stock and it continues to grow at the rate that's grown for the last 15 years for all the major biggest banks and financial institutions. That's assuming they did nothing in terms of doing options trading and gambling with your money. That's assumes they did no lending it out. That assumes they didn't use it to buy any other assets or real estate or anything else. So, I mean, the banks make all this money from holding on to our money and using it on a balance sheet. And so they have an incentive to make it as complicated for us to, as possible, and to just make us feel like, oh, we're just better off leaving our money in here, because then they get to utilize it in that way. If we don't, and we use that money in some other way, or we don't keep it in the bank, or we put it under our mattress, we put it in stocks, we put it in crypto, that's not good for the banks, because then they don't have any money. They don't have as much on their ledger. They don't have as much to gamble with. They don't have as much to buy assets with themselves, with using our money as their collateral, using it as their buying power, as their cash on hand, even though it belongs to us. And so, they make these things convoluted. And then the same thing with the taxes. If the tax code was simplified, and if the tax code was more even, more balanced, more fair, I mean, I think our tax code, we pat ourselves on the back for such a progressive tax code and everything like that. It's not a progressive tax code. It's a fucking scam is what it really is, because it's convoluted. They purposely mislead the American people into thinking that money is there to benefit the common good. And if that were true, then Americans, for all of the fact that every year you and I have all been alive, every year everyone else has been alive, the federal government has collected more and more and more money, but we have not seen the average lives of people improve as a result of directly government spending. The only thing we've seen that improves people's lives is the advancements in technology and the expansion of opportunities in the economy. And that's not been as a result of government. That's been as a result of the private sector and innovation. Your life, you cannot sit there. You cannot look at the allocation of government spending and look to your life or most of the people in your life and see where the allocation of government spending has made people's lives around you, your community, or your personal life or your family members better. You probably, however, can talk to the last 2 or 3 generations of people in your family older than you, and they can tell you some policy that the government's implemented that's had a negative impact on their life rather than a positive one pretty easily. I have not met a single person on average above the age of 30 that can tell me 5 government policies that positively, in fact, impacted their life. And the only people who can say that are people who are on a massive amount of public assistance and welfare. And that unfortunately means that they're in a position where they're not very productive for one reason or another, right? Whether it's an issue with their personal responsibility or whether it's that they had a bad set of cards, whatever the reason, So we haven't gotten a lot of benefit from reallocating money from productive people to unproductive people, because how many of them were able to get into a better life circumstance or situation? How many of them were able to get out of poverty? We have a very dismal rate of government programs getting people out of poverty. What's usually gotten people out of poverty is themselves. That's what's usually been the case. It's themselves, and it's opportunities increase in the marketplace, and opportunities in the marketplace are stifled by government. They don't really benefit from it. So that's a big part of it. And the other part of it, while I'm on my soapbox, is this. Whenever people want to criticize someone like me for saying something like that, they say, oh, do you care about roads? Do you care about police? Do you care about firefighters? The government's had all this rhetoric about defunding the police, and I'm in a nice enough neighborhood to where I know that's a bad idea, and that the people I know who live in not as nice neighborhoods wish there were more police. That's the irony. It's people who live in affluent neighborhoods who ironically talk about defunding the police when they benefit directly from being protected. Well protected. So that's ironic. And then it's like, oh, you don't care about roads. It's like, we spent all these tax dollars, so why do we still have potholes? Like, come on, like, don't kid a kidder. So it's nonsense. What happens, though, is when you have that absurd amount of money in cash, it's easy for people to find a way to skim off the top. It's so easy for a little bit of corruption, a little bit of backdoor dealing, for somebody to get some quid pro quo and get a little bit off the top. When it's that much money, oh, who's going to miss a little bit of it? When it's trillions of dollars, oh, they're not going to miss that 100,000. It's trillions of dollars. They won't know. And and over a period of time, it all adds up. And if you want a really good example of massive amounts of tax spending that doesn't amount to better outcomes, you have nowhere else to look but California. It is a disaster piece. It's a disaster piece. You want to talk about where our money goes? We spent $5 trillion nation building another country that we surrendered to the Taliban. That's like, so like, I mean, taxes, come on. It's not that we need to have no taxes. It's that we need some actual accountability for how money is spent, because otherwise it's just a very convenient way to allow some grifters to put their hands in the money cookie jar without people noticing. That's all it is.
Bertie, you want to read that?
Yeah, so this is Tech Today. Our good friend Brandon says, California is spending $12 billion on the homeless, but the money is going to their nonprofit friends that donated to the governor, so they're getting the contracts. That's why California is spending $60K per tent. Right, we have these tent cities in California. If you look at the number of homeless people in California, let alone the number of homeless people in America, and then you look at the amount of money we've spent per homeless person in America, the amount of money we spent for homeless person in America per year should mean there's no more homelessness. We've overspent the money. California alone has spent 1/3 of the money in just the last 3 years. In just the last 3 years, California has spent about 1/3 or more of the money that it would take to build enough permanent shelters to end homelessness in the entire country, not just in California. And you know what? And I'm not making that up, because HUD, federal government, HUD, the Housing and Urban Development, Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, says that to end homelessness and make sure there are no unsheltered Americans, it's about $25 billion. They've already overspent that several times over and not solved homelessness. They have not built the permanent shelters that you would require. And in terms of misallocation of funds, if you look at the yearly spending on the mass incarceration of nonviolent drug offenders, we have already spent twice what it takes to end homelessness sheltering nonviolent drug offenders for what, holding a dime bag? We already could have solved the problem. We've misallocated the money. It's been misappropriated.
Not just sheltering, but also feeding, and also providing programs for relocation and reinstating, back into society.
Yes. But we should have never taken them out of society to begin with. It's like
the issue
was wildly profitable for someone, though.
The issue isn't that the funds aren't there; it's the mismanagement of those funds. They're just not effective. They're not effective at spending. There's no, but the way that they're budgeting it is, it's a toilet. I mean, it's just like going down the drain.
But someone benefits from it, because again,
right.
Okay, we have to do this thing. Now there's a budget. Now that budget's publicly declared. Now contractors can bid on it. Someone gets that contract. I have filmed city council meetings before, back when I lived in North Carolina. And I actually had a boss who was very heavily invested in local politics, which is why he donated to all the local judges and all the local politicians. And it meant that he would get the ability to do a lot of what he wants and get away with a lot of different things. And it was good for his business. That being said, it taught me a lot by sitting there and realizing, wait a minute, there are people on the city council, and then the contract for these zoning permits or something goes to somebody's cousin or somebody's brother-in-law or somebody who was a part of someone's former fraternity or somebody's former unit when they served together in the army. And it was just a lot of this backdoor dealing of people granting favors to their friends and family. There was someone else I worked for at one point, and one of our guys, Pete, had a really good relationship that got the company some business. And then the boss is like, hey, like, Pete, you got that deal with Nancy. It's like, well, what does Nancy want? And it's like, what do we got to do for her? It's like, and Pete's like, nothing. It's like, I just have a really good relationship with Nancy and she trusts me to deliver the work. It was like, we don't have to do any quid pro quo here. We just got to deliver on the project. And then the boss was shocked that this, like, Pete was able to bring in this big contract without promising some kickback, because it's like, that's how normalized corruption is. That's how normalized corruption is. Corruption is so normalized that someone can be shocked that there's no quid pro quo attached to anything, and they just have to actually deliver what was promised and nothing more.
I'm shocked when there isn't corruption.
That's a shame.
I just like that is
that's how normal it is. That's how normalized it is, though, right?
Or for me,
that's how normalized it is.
Audrey's got shifty eyes because she's behind it all.
Puppet master.
No, don't expose me like that, Romina.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting choice of words.
Yeah.
Don't expose me. Instead of don't slander me, it was don't expose me.
let's just point out the fact that Audrey is the only one who's in California.
Yeah. It's homelessness is not good here. I can attest to what Brian said. It's pretty bad.
Yeah. No, it's beyond tolerable in every sense of the word. And it's not because it's annoying, because we are talking about humans.
It's inhumane, it's cruel.
It's intolerable in the sense that it's very sad, and it's emotionally draining to drive by some of the most popular avenues and see that you can't even walk on the sidewalk because people live there.
Well, I think they perpetuate the problem on purpose, because if they keep perpetuating the problem, they can keep raising money, and they can keep saying, "Oh, we need to fix this," and how dare you not participate and help us fix this, and how dare you not want to pay more taxes or tax the rich or do all of these things. We have to solve this problem, or if you don't want to solve this problem, if you don't want to help, then you're the reason why, and you're a bad person, and maybe we need to take everything from you, and that's a way to silence and control people that you can't guilt and can't shame when you call them out for the fact that's like, no, you people are causing the problem on purpose, because it's a very good way for you to retain power, because if we fix the problem, we don't have no use for you anymore. And that's
as long as there's still demand for a product, they're still making money. And that's
think about it. If we actually solve, like, I mean, I hate to break it to you, and I'm not choosing sides here, because I basically am fine with, if we want to bring up the entire Congress, both sides of the aisle, on treason by incompetence charges and everything like that, let's go. Sign me up. I don't have a preference. Red team, blue team, they both suck. I want out or everything like that. Throw me a yellow team so I have a spoiler. Come on. Let's go. I'm ready for something different. I don't care, but I will call this one out, because again, in terms of the party that markets to your guilt and your emotions, in terms of leveraging the intolerable position of people who live in poverty, what would the Democrats have to offer if we fix poverty? What do they have to offer at that point? Because again, they don't offer anything else to the other 85% of the American people. What are they doing for the other 85% of the American people if we solve poverty? If we solve poverty, what is their platform? The platform currently of that party is guilting us. I have criticisms of the Republicans too, because like I said, screw them all. all of them could be tried for treason by incompetence as far as I'm concerned. But specifically on this side, when we talk about taxes and we talk about poverty, if they can't guilt you and leverage your empathy and manipulate you and have somebody for you to feel bad about, what are they offering after that? The only thing they can offer after that is make you envious of people who have it better than you. So they either have to manipulate your empathy for the poor or your envy for the rich. There's no other and I say this because I'm a marketer. So I'm telling you what the scam is, because I understand how marketing manipulates people. That's the marketing. I either give you people to envy who have it better than you, or I have to manipulate you being empathetic toward people who have it worse than you. So it's a complete disrespect for the middle class. It's a complete disrespect for the middle class by leveraging how you feel about the bottom 10% or the top 10%. For the 80% of people in the middle, that's a terrible way to treat people.
I just want to be left alone.
Bingo. And then if you want the even-handed side of then what the Republicans do wrong is, a lot of things. But a lot of it is not acknowledging as many of the problems and really not offering a solution for what we do, because they're not offering a solution, but at least they're not pretending to, for what we do about the people at the bottom 10% of the market. And the thing is, they could offer something instead of just saying, well, that's too bad, or that's those people's fault, or they could offer something that's more reasonable, but they haven't offered anything. So then, okay, well, if you go that way, then they can, you can be attacked on the line of, you don't care about the poor. But the thing is, you have to offer something, and that's another failing. And then with regard to the issues with regard to the top 10%, they don't acknowledge the corruption. They refuse. When have you ever seen the right side of the aisle acknowledge the corruption, except when they can point to the other team? Acknowledge the corruption by itself, by its nature, and no one party has ownership of the corruption. If there's enough of corruption to go around, there's enough corruption to go around. So the failure to acknowledge the real problems is one side there, and then not letting a tragedy go to waste is the problem of the other side. So one denies the reality of how bad things are, and one opportunistically takes advantage of it, and then we're all left with these two really shitty options and nothing else. And it's terrible. And again, it relates to the thing you're talking about, because it comes back to this whole issue with what's the incentive to screw people over millions of Americans over on their tax filings. One of the most stressful things that they have to do every single year and can't get out of. It just shows you how deep the rabbit hole goes on screwing people over, and taxes is a big focal point of how people get screwed over. And it's a damn shame, because we don't have a return on investment, and there's nobody who doesn't want to invest in making this country better, but we can't say that that's what we're actually doing.
Right. Yep. Any thoughts, Audrey?
Both bad.
Yeah, that sums it up pretty concisely. Both bad. Both bad. Two shitty options. It's like, hey, do you want the shit sandwich with cheddar? Do you want the shit sandwich with cheddar or the shit sandwich with Swiss?
It's sad that it comes down to choosing the less of two evils a lot of the time.
I just made it very graphically clear what your choices are.
Yeah.
It's like, can I get a sandwich that doesn't have shit in it? It's like, no, that's not on the menu.
Are you kidding? No, you got to pay extra for that.
No, it's not even on the menu. You can't even pay extra. It's not on the menu.
No. I mean, you have to. No. I mean, you get that sandwich, and you have to pay extra for it, on top of the fact that you don't want it.
Of that.
Yeah.
And your money's worth less. Thank you, inflation.
Right. Yeah. No. Exactly.
Right. I mean, so it's again, it's It's a shame. It's a real shame, and it's terrible what's happening to people. And I don't think the class action suit is going to really even give people the justice they deserve for being manipulated when it comes to thinking that they had to spend money to do something instead of being able to do it for free. But there's so many things in our system that do that to them. There's so many things in our system that do that to them. And on top of that, there's no guarantee if they really investigate this, which I don't think they will. I think that this will be a slap on the wrist, because I think if they really investigated, allegedly, it's not as if there's not a possibility that on top of overpaying for the tax filing, for all we know, maybe it's possible, not confirming or denying, it's possible that they were incentivized to file in such a way to where they overpaid in their taxes themselves. I've certainly overpaid in my taxes before because filings weren't done right. So who's to say, and who's to say that there will be an investigation? What's the incentive for the government? I want to ask this. What do you think the incentive is for the government to investigate a tax filer and come to the conclusion that, oh, you had millions of Americans overpay that didn't owe taxes or owed less taxes? Do you think there's any incentive for the government to find that evidence and figure out how many Americans overpaid on their taxes?
No.
Yeah, why would they do that? Anyone ever had the government owe them money and then it take forever and ever and ever, but when you owe them money, it's like now, the threats come in and but oh, God forbid they owe you money. They'll get around to it when they feel like it.
True.
Or gaslight you into, oh, no, we don't owe you any money. Yeah. Or, oh, you remembered that? Okay, yeah, I guess we have to pay it. There are people who still are waiting for their COVID relief money that qualified. There are still people who qualified for COVID relief that are still waiting for it and didn't get it. Yeah. It's a shame.
A broken UI.
I didn't get my stimmy until a long time. It took a while.
See? Yeah.
But also I have a weird setup. It's not as easy.
But they make it so convoluted. It's so funny. Everyone criticized Jeff Bezos for taking a child tax credit when he's which, by the way, you're entitled to. You have kids, so you kind of get it's for taking that because, oh, well, you're a billionaire. Why are you taking this extra tax credit and everything like that? You're a billionaire. It's no one criticizing him knows how to opt out of taking a child tax credit. They do not even know what form you have to fill out to opt out of a child tax credit. And why would you? When the IRS is going to even just make you have to fill out a form to opt out of a program that you qualify for by literally having children. Why would you opt out of that? And why would you go through the extra mile? And why would your accountant go the extra mile? Just because you already have money? And it's not it's even an easy check a box, and you wouldn't even know. So if you don't even know the process for opting out of taking deductions, which no one knows how to do that. No average American, nobody knows how to do that. Even above average Americans don't know how to do that. So what's the point of criticizing them for it? It's stupid. You can't taxes are so convoluted, and people get so mad. I was talking to a friend, and her tax filing is 6 pages. Mine's 59. I was because they wanted to complain about taxes or disparity and income inequality, and it was okay, you have a regular job and your tax filing is 6 pages. Mine's 59. There's a big difference in those. That's an astronomical difference. Maybe that also represents the difference in the gap between employee and employer. Maybe because it's I'm do you really do you even want look at this paper, look how convoluted this is. It's and when I showed her that, she was like, that's a lot. That's a lot. Or when people find out what people find out what a day, when people find out what the day in the life of a business owner, a content creator, an entrepreneur, even because again, people think we have an easy gig. People think we have an easy gig until you let them see behind the scenes or until they try it. And then they're like, nope.
Until they pay your taxes.
Well, that too. And then it's like, I pay more in taxes than I used to make as an employee. Even at my highest earning salary, I pay more in taxes every year than I ever made as an employee.
Let's not mention that it doesn't even matter how organized you are. You still have to wait. You still have to wait until after the tax day comes around because you still haven't gotten all the forms that you need.
Oh, no. So I file an extension every time.
Yeah.
I always deal with like in October. I always deal like in July or October.
Brands love to send the forms at the very last minute.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You're sitting there waiting on the anxiety. You having to harangue these people for your 1099s.
Oh, yeah.
You have to get yours out to your own contractors, which if you have Stripe or if you use Gusto, that is done for you and it makes it easy. Thank God, you know? And they want to talk about, oh, people don't pay taxes or this. It's like, you guys have no idea how the tax code works. You're only thinking about wages. You're comparing a situation where you guys deal with one thing, which is W-2 and wages, to people who literally deal with the 6 forms of income that they make beyond quote unquote wages. And it's like, oh, so-and-so doesn't pay taxes. Like they pay payroll taxes. They pay capital gains taxes. They pay this, they pay taxes. It's like, well, the percentage they pay is less than mine. It's like, do you want a higher percentage or a higher dollar amount? Like no one for themselves would choose percentage over dollars, but they're going to do that with other people. No one wants a higher or lower percentage. They want to get more money or pay less money. So it's completely intellectually dishonest to use and frame percentages or percentage of net worth. It's like, because it's bullshit. It's just moving the goalpost to win an argument that didn't need to be won. It's, but speaking of winners and losers, last topic.
I was just going to say that.
Speaking of winners and losers, it's like, so Dave Chappelle had somebody come up and try to attack him on stage. And when I say try, I mean, he effed around and found out, because it's like, he thought he was doing something. He thought he was going to run them hands, run the ones with Dave Chappelle and everything. And it didn't work out because Dave Chappelle has an entourage. Dave Chappelle doesn't just sit there up on a show. He runs 30 deep. And this ain't the Academy Awards where they just going to sit there and let that slide. It's like, no. So what happened was this guy went up there, and it wasn't the Academy Awards. It might as well have been the streets. This dude messed around, found out, messed with the wrong one, and he had more than a dozen dudes roll up on him, and it was not fun. Like, they had to wheel this dude out in an ambulance and everything like that. I mean, it's like it was just not a good time. He got an old school hood style jumping, and he had it coming. Do you know
what's happening to him now, like post this?
I don't know if Dave's gone press charges or if the venue's gone press charges or not and everything like that. Because I'm like, they're like, do we even need to? Because at this point, and it's like, the thing is, I don't know if he presses charges for the ass beating he got. I don't even know if that would work. I don't even know if he can sue Jay Chappelle, because I don't even know how that would work, because I mean, he snuck a weapon into the venue. So it's like security is wild. And so it could have went badly. It could have went really badly and stuff like that. It's a knife that's designed in a replica gun type situation. So Dave handled himself. So good for Dave. And then his crew came through. They didn't just sit there like at the Academy Awards, just sitting there, just letting stuff happen. It's like, oh, no. This is like one of the best moments of instant karma that we've ever seen. It's like, and and the show went on. It's like,
Wait, isn't that like the most, probably one of the worst ideas for a weapon that he could have brought? Because it it looks like a gun, but it's actually just a knife. Like, why are you
Right?
just carrying a knife? Like, that's literally the worst. How did that? It's kind of sad that that got through security because it's
Yeah, it
literally
is.
like
It is. But it's like, if everyone, you know how comedians were pearl clutching and we're talking about, oh, comedians are going to get attacked on stage. It's like, well, I think that's over now. I think they can stop clutching the pearls. I think people understand what's going to happen now. It's like that there, and then people understand they ain't Will Smith. People understand they ain't Will Smith because remember how the whole thing was like, oh, I can't do that as a normal person, get away with that like Will Smith. It's like, well, now you know you can't. Now it's like, so the pearl clutching can end. Comedians, you'll be just fine. All you got to do is roll 30 deep and tell your boys what's up.
Yeah.
All you got to do is have homies that have your actual back and you'll be fine. Not like the soft Academy Awards where they ain't going to take care of you. Just bring your own, like, don't worry about security. Bring your own crew and it will be fine.
I mean, they'll just have to have heightened security, whether that is with their own, you know, dudes who they bring in or what it is, whatever it is, like men undercover. But regardless of that, there are going to be heightened security measures, which is a little bit of a shame. Like, it makes me feel like it kind of sucks. It's like when YouTubers were starting to get their lives threatened more often, and like that phase where it went from, hey, like suddenly we could hang out with somebody that we don't know, that we saw on the internet and that we've been following for a long time, and like be able to go have lunch with them, to like having to go through, like, get wanted, you know,
or have to like, it's like, or
go
their
through
security dude,
check.
or they have to tell their security, hey, I know them. Like, I mean, like with Mr. Beast, when I was at Vince, it's like his he had to go. It's like, oh yeah, I know Roberto. He's got, like, he's fine. Like, yeah.
There's no, but it sucks because like that relationship, it's harder to have that relationship now. Like, I think people, at least fans now, understand that there is that like separation, or rather, understand isn't the right word, but know that separation is there. It's being made,
it's being enforced. They don't. I wouldn't say they understand. They still
not understand. Right, I corrected myself. It's not that they understand, but that they know that this is the relationship is like fan versus YouTuber. Whereas like just 10 years ago, it was a very different thing where it was there was no definition and there were no clear lines. But because of it, the lives of like certain YouTubers and content creators had to be sacrificed, I guess, to learn
the one that comes to mind is Christina,
right? And I mean, these are just kind of things, and like also going to like VidCon, right, and being able to hang out with like your favorite.
The security is prolific, and thank God.
Right. And now it's like completely different, where it's like everywhere you go, you're badged, right? It's like you have to scan your badge, and like you can't pass certain areas.
I've gone to legit like celebrity event, and you have too, with less hassle than that.
Yeah.
But it's also because of the nature of the fandom.
Right.
Ironically, the depth of the parasocial relationship and the entitlement and the fandom and the lack of boundaries with content creators and influencers is so prolific that it's actually easier to hang out with actual celebrities. Look, it would be easier, even for us as content creators ourselves. I guarantee you it's easier for us to hang out with people if we go to Dragon Con and be with celebrities that are literally on television and movies and do shots with them at Metro Cafe without much of a hassle. I guarantee you that that's easier than us hanging out with YouTubers with 10 million subscribers. I guarantee you. There are celebrities in Atlanta that is easier for you to hang out with than an event, than a big YouTuber, because of the difference in the dynamic of the parasocial relationship. I mean, a couple of years ago, me and my boys, like we got to hang out with the crew from Arrow back when Arrow was like, you know, still relevant and stuff like that. And Stephen Amell and Robbie Amell and them were like on things. Funny enough, like a bunch of celebrities, I've had to actually intervene with like, a friend of mine. I'm not gonna like name her or call her out or anything like that. But it's like, it's funny. I've literally had to stop 2 major celebrities that were like aggressively hitting on her. One who was actually like very drunk. And it's funny because like he plays a supervillain on TV, so it was like our running joke is, oh, remember that time I saved you from the clutches of insert supervillain here? Like, quite literally saved you from the clutches of insert supervillain here. Yeah. Like, it's a thing.
True. Are you going to VidCon?
I'm debating it.
Really?
Because the thing is, it'd be a little late for me to be a speaker, and I looked at like the featured creator list, and I almost recognize almost nobody there. The main thing for me to go there would be, I would go there basically just to literally spend time with someone like Jim Lauterbach, and that'd be or to go and pay or get comped or pay for the ticket to go to the third floor and just hang out with the like super adults, the people over 35 and 40, and literally like not do much on the second floor. That's the creator floor, because what it is just a bunch of fans who paid extra money and but don't want to pay $500 more, so they paid $800 more. And then the bottom floor is literally Rugrats. I don't like so I'd only be going there because the thing is, I'm like, there's almost nothing I get out of going to VidCon that I wouldn't get a better out of by going to Vid Summit. And Vid Summit, thankfully, is so price prohibitive. I won't have to worry about fans just showing up, and this so cost prohibitive that it won't be a fan fest. And it's nothing against fans, but like, that's not what I go to a conference. I go to a conference for the purposes of networking or teaching or working with creators, like not like for fan service. I'm there on business. I'm there for a reason. So for me, I've somewhat aged out of the VidCon experience, outside of, unless I was speaking or unless I was doing something with a brand there. I might go because a lot of my sponsors are going, and therefore there might be an opportunity to do something with them that makes sense and helps them out. And then we might do some extra value add or something there. And because there's connections on the third floor that are worthwhile there. But since VidCon sold to Viacom, there's just been less of a reason for me to go. But I've also been involved with it since then. I did the virtual thing when we were doing virtual speaking. So I've spoken twice more at VidCon since speaking there in person, but I'd rather speak in person. But also at the same time, if I go there, it's business only. And I'm not really there at that point to like have fun outside of the dinner meetings. The dinner meetings are fun, getting drinks with a few people and networking, that's fun. But as far as like the parties or the after parties where you can't barely hear anybody, it's like, no, I would literally, while everybody's at the private VIP party or concert or whatever, I would probably have an Airbnb and host a mastermind of serious people over 30 that just happen to be there anyway. And we would just stay up and order food, like have pizza and drinks, and literally workshop business and build empires while everybody else is like, at a VIP and everything like that, trying not to get groped.
I mean, that doesn't sound like a bad idea, but you could also do that at Vid Summit.
True. It's just that, it's one more week to be in California. It's one more week to be in California out of the year.
Yeah. No,
when people would be in California anyway, so.
Right, yeah. And it's also a different group of people.
True.
Yep.
I think my plan is to just drive down, because I can drive down, so I might just like go scope it out, see who's there. Because a lot of my friends aren't going this year for the same sort of reasons, that just feels like not worth the investment, because we're not actually going to go to basically any of the talks. It's more about networking.
Yeah, because I mean, there unfortunately, I hate to say it like this, there's almost nobody there teaching something that you haven't heard already.
Yeah.
When I go, I try to do that. I try to when I go to these things, I'm like, here's the thing you haven't heard before. Here's data that nobody shares, because nobody goes to these things that they want to talk about their experience. They want to talk about their career journey. What people don't do a lot of these events is they don't come in with slides with their damn analytics. And that's the thing that would be useful to some people of knowing, that's what I respect about Mr. Beast. Mr. Beast comes in and he comes in to Vid Summit storms the room with his freaking spreadsheets. I love it.
Yeah. It's kind of sad. No.
I would, you know what? I mean, I would literally, like, I would literally pay to go to a mastermind for 3 days in the middle of nowhere and sit with Jimmy and like 10 other people. And all we do is pour over spreadsheets and sit in Microsoft Excel all day and analytics all day for 3 days. I would do that. And I would pay for that mastermind. It'd be worth every penny.
I'm actually helping or might be helping some people who are trying to put together like a creator camp sort of ordeal with like 30 creators. So I feel like that kind of stuff is probably more useful than like
if you guys need another camp counselor, if you need a drill sergeant Roberto is at your disposal.
I can bring it up.
Yeah. I'm actually, speaking of masterminds, I'm actually like, I've always wanted to do like a high-end mastermind. I know a lot of people like think, oh God, those are scams or this, that. If I realized who it's for now is not necessarily, because like even with other things, one-on-one coaching is the thing that works the best for creators. Is one-on-one coaching and cohorts work for the best for creators, especially creators on the come up. One-on-one coaching and business development works for, or even workshops works for established creators. They're trying to grow their business or address a problem in their organization or pivot or do something different or move into another vertical or launch a merch drop or a product. So who is a mastermind for? And I finally figured it out. Mastermind that I would do, it would be for all of these creator economy startups and these creator economy founders, people building tools and apps and businesses that help creators. That's who a big high ticket mastermind and high level mastermind was for. And so I was talking to some people at these events that I've been going to. They're like actually legitimately interested in that, and they have the money because they need to be able to collaborate and talk with people, and they need to like be able to like think with like high concept and like go over a lot of different things that make sense like for that. And they're playing for much higher stakes. So going on a 3-day retreat with like, 6 to 8 other people who are about it would be, and doing that once a quarter and also doing meetings once a month, that would be worth it to them. And they've communicated that. And so that's something I'm looking at that I'm really excited about, is like having masterminds with the people who are building the tools for the creator economy. That's mad interesting.
I think that'd be fun.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know why like a sponsor wouldn't get behind something like that. I feel like it's just easy. I don't know. Why should we be reliant on like conventions to host stuff like that,
Well, the thing is, I mean, we can start our own. You can do that with Create Her. I can do that with Awesome Creator Summit. Romina has done stuff like that with Creator IRL. Like, so as long as you get sponsors to back it and everything like that, you can make those micro events. I mean, Justine and Jenna did it with Creator Camp. They did Creator Camp, and I went to that. That was backed by like Sony and B&H and a couple other brands, but mostly Sony and B&H.
It's not hard to do.
I think it's awesome.
I mean, it is the easiest things to do to build community.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I mean, Romina would know. She's a champ at it.
Yeah, I want to have friends. It's all a scam.
Wow.
The only benefit from attending is becoming my friend. Audrey's like, I'm your friend? Since when?
What?
You got a friend in me.
I don't know how long to be Audrey's friend. She's got a freaking look at the baby she's got back there.
Yeah, I would also be concerned. I'm not gonna lie. I don't blame you. I don't know why it's in focus half the time either. Look at this.
Well, I mean, you did want it to be an Easter egg.
True.
Got a friend in me. Something else interesting that I've talked with people about. I mean, this could be in something in another episode, but like we were talking about, I'm really excited about what Chris Do is doing with his Web3 project and the roadmap for that with his own creator token, and then them doing a DAO and building a peer-to-peer community, and also just even people who can do these things to commemorate the fact that they want to support the mission of the future, and what the future is doing, and the fact that the future is going to build its own like compound and like physical location, and like that's going to be really dope. And he's the right guy like to do it, and the right guy I think to legitimize what Web3 educators can do with tokenized communities and memberships and peer-to-peer, because again that's what eliminate a lot of the skepticism is when we have better use cases and we can point to things like just what Justine is doing, and like whether that's philanthropy or whether we can point to a for-profit thing that Chris Do or Platt Flynn do that are community driven. Like we need to be able to have 10 like really good examples of top tier big YouTubers. They're like over, a certain size, and that are also like, very business oriented and trustworthy. That because the thing that's hurting like Web3 and like with the like people think everything's a scam is the fact that you have all these entertainment people who never had technology backgrounds, never had formal real businesses outside of being entertainers, and people who already had dubious reputations, drama and scandals. And what it's like, it's sad that in the creator economy that it was like the Paul brothers who became the face of crypto and tokens in the creator economy in the YouTube community, that they became, that's people like them and Lana Rhoades. And it's like, no offense to them, but it's like, it's a shame that it's like scandalous entertainers were the early adopters of token and communities and things like that, and that there was some shady stuff happening. But I'm glad that there are legit people who are interested and are going to pave the way and give us something to point to other than them. Because I think that's the big problem with a lot of things is, well, who can you point to? Again, even just with us not really being that interested in VidCon anymore is because we can't look at VidCon's roster and really see people that it matters for us to go and sit in their session or go and do a meetup with.
I think something that we talked about at one point was hosting the train. Do you guys remember that? Doing like or maybe I was going to organize having like a train, sort of like a mastermind group, but it was just like a very small group.
A cross-continental like train trip, like
yeah.
I thought the thing we were going to do on the train was, I didn't think it was going to be a mastermind. I thought the whole idea of the train was us vlogging a cross-continental adventure.
Well, I wouldn't say it was mastermind. It wasn't exactly mastermind, but the intent was just to collaborate together and make videos together on, as a kind of like inspiration, right? And vlogging with intention, kind of to have like a overlaying theme, right, of the train. And then something else that we talked I thought about doing as well is doing a smaller group to go to another city. Mm-hmm. We sort of talked about that as well. Like Austria was like in the I think in the talks that we had. Mm-hmm. Some city in Europe, we had talked about it. Doing something like that. Like having micro events can be so productive, especially if you have like a goal to work towards, even if it is like every creator like hosting their own like workshop or something like that.
Interesting. Yeah, no, I'd agree with that.
Like something to collaborate with.
I think just sticking creators in like a space together for X amount of time is a great idea.
MTV Real World and Road Rules. MTV Real World Road Rules. I would talk like I was talking to Sydney, and like I was telling him, like, it's like, dude, let's get a bunch of the crew together and let's just like literally just do a road trip and like make content.
Yeah, I had an idea with some of my friends to do like a creator bus where you just put a bunch of creators on a bus and go on a road trip.
That's MTV's Road Rules, but like with I mean, all like, look, creators today, literally, they want an interesting idea and everything like that. Literally just steal it from 90s MTV. People haven't seen that in 30 years. They'll think it's new.
I don't know. I feel like it's such a hack to collab. You don't even have to make like long format videos if it doesn't fit your style. Just being around like other
Well, it's
people.
because now you have interesting ingredients and you have this mix of these two interesting chemicals, these two components that are like, oh, this person buzz this person. Now that's interesting.
Yeah. I think it's a great idea.
Do you really? I mean, like in a weird way. Like that's, by the way, why eventually I'm hoping that I do get creator gear guide up and running, because then what'll be interesting is it can start simple and I can just start it simple with reviewing all of my gear and everything like that. But what I'd like to do at Creator Gear Guide is eventually go and once a month tour other creator studios as a once a month project. And then while I'm touring their studios, I can also do some other type of collab with them. For one thing, I probably do an interview in person for the podcast, so I get other content. But I could also do an actual like creative type video thing of some kind with them. Like, because I mean, I can milk a lot of that, because I'm like, okay, I can do a studio tour of your thing, and that's really cool. Because I can do that for both channels in a weird way. I can actually do that for both of my main channel and the gear side, but I can also do an interview for the podcast. But then for something like kind of interesting to do that I can put on other socials or on the more Roberto Blake channel or put anywhere or whatever, or make content for my members only that's actually really interesting and intriguing, would be doing some kind of video where we have an experience together, or we do a challenge of some time creatively. But it just would depend. With the Creator Gear Guide thing, it could be interesting because I can even milk somewhat entertainment or edutainment content out of that, with if I go to another creator space and then the challenge is like them teaching me how to make their video, or how to do the thing that they do, or how to do the thing that they do that's creative, with the tools, like how to use their tool, or how to, you know what I mean? Because that could be, or teaching me something I don't know, and therefore teaching the audience, you know?
True. We got all the time in the world to teach the audience, especially if they subscribe to us. YouTube.com/NoAssemblyPod. Please subscribe, like, leave a comment, give us all of the love that you can. I think we're just about ready to wrap up, Roberto.
Yeah, no, I think we can go ahead and we can end it here, and then we'll figure out what next week is. Thank you for listening to No Stone Required Podcast, a podcast where we talk about nothing and where we dunk on people stupid enough to storm the stage at an event and F around and find out. Speaking of effing around and find out, tune in next week for another exciting episode with your trio of hosts, starting with Romina.eth, Audrey, Ember, and of course, your Dark Lord of the Interwebs, Roberto Blake. Thank you for listening. We'll catch you next week. Nope.